What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. More specifically, I'm here to talk about Angron. So if you haven't heard, Angron has gotten a new sculpt. Yes, he does already have a sculpt for 30K, and you are correct, he already has a sculpt for 40K, but today we have a new sculpt, Angron Transfigured. Basically what this means is that the GW teams are making this next stage of Angron's apotheosis to become a demon prince. So we have 30K era Angron, and then we have him as he has fully been enveloped by chaos and Khorne. As you can see, he looks a little bit more demonic, but a lot more chaos infused. And then we have the 40K sculpt, which is demon apotheosis Angron. So in my opinion, I don't like it. Like, the proportions look off, the face looks off. To me, his face looks like Freddy Krueger. I really love the 40K sculpt, and I think the 30K sculpt is alright, but this new transfigured Angron, it just doesn't sit right with me. However, I do have a World Eaters army, and we've actually talked about the Primarch novel Slave of Nuceria in our other channel here, and I wanted to talk about Angron in this different light here on this channel about just how much of a badass he is. Now, you could say what you want to say about Angron. The dude has always been a slave his entire life. From his early upbringing to being inducted and forcefully put into the Imperium's war machine, and then, of course, later in life, through the machinations of Horus, Lorgar, Argol, Erebus, and all of that, he just becomes a slave to chaos. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into Angron, Slave of Nuceria, as we see just how depraved Angron really is. Every eye fell upon Mago before he had even realized it was he who had spoken. Angron came up on him, closing the distance between himself and the Centurion in 3 bounding strides. The Primarch towered over his son, blood-laced, spittle bubbling from the lipless gash of his mouth. "No. On Khandra Ni," said the 18th captain, "it took more than one Nucerian day to achieve conquest, and by your command we killed ourselves, and we did it again at Brujo, at Holu, at Trichoton, at Cestus IV. Our blades are soaked in the blood of brothers, for our own kin, for no reason other than to slake your wrath." Spilled, Angron lowered his brutish face until it was level with Magos. "Because you failed." "We did not fail," Magos roared. He knew all too well the ways of his father. He knew that he could measure the remainder of his life in moments. But he no longer cared about what would happen to him. He would have his say in front of all his battle brothers before Angron tore him apart. "He went back every time, after killing our own kin in shame, and we conquered those worlds. We won those wars. The flag of the Imperium was raised over the cities, and their peoples are now subjects of our own toil, and because of our blood." Mago looked his father in the eye. "And here we stand now, given the order that those of our brothers who had fallen with honor today must be joined by ones who will fall in disgrace. No." He shook his head. "No more." For a few seconds, Angron said nothing. Mago felt the hot breath of the Primarch on his face, reeking of blood. Suddenly, Angron reared from his hunch to full height. His face turned upwards, and he laughed. Angron's laugh was a booming, wet sound. It rang across the triumphal hall like thunder. Mago had never heard it before. Perhaps none of the Legion had, with the possible exception of Khorne. It did nothing to diminish the terror that exuded from his presence. "I like you, Captain," said Angron, coughing away at the blood trickling from his nose and baring the iron pegs that replaced his teeth in a feral grin. "You at least have the spine to speak your thoughts. That is why I will still let you pick. Father, choose now, said Angron, the smile gone as quickly as it had come, or I will choose for you. This legion is your legion. Its warriors carry your blood in their veins. I will not see their lives squandered any further. Enough have died today already. I am asking you, my Primarch, my father, do not do this. Any trace of the amusement Angron had expressed moments before had vanished. So many times, again and again, he snorted, his eyes twitching as they went in and out of focus. Over and over you tell me, we are your sons. You are our lord. Our lives are yours to command. Is that not what you told me in the cave, Karn? To get me to come back here? Are you liars now, as well as cowards? Am I your master or aren't I? If I am the master of your fates, as you so often have said, then the fate I proclaim is now decimation. Magos clenched his teeth until his jaw creaked. Madness. Careful, Captain, said Karn from the Primarch's side, lending his voice a cold edge of warning. You will choose, Angron repeated, his temper rising, or I will choose for you. Who will be first? I will. Salakar walked through the ranks of the 18th, brothers parting before him until he stood at Magos' side. Do not take from the front rankers, Lord. Their valor has been proven in battle. He knelt before the centurion, pulling his head back to expose his throats. Mago looked down at Salakar, the future of the World Eaters, a wellspring of potential to be snuffed out and cast aside for nothing. Theirs was not only valor that was proven, brother. For the Legion, Salakar whispered, his eyes open and face calm in acceptance. Mago hesitated. He closed his eyes, drew in a breath, and opened them again. For the Legion, he whispered back as he took up his knife. No. Mago turned his blade still poised at Salakar's throat. Angron's lipless maw twisted in an ugly grin. Put your blade away. Your spirit does you credit, but you talk too much. You, Captain, will do it by hand. The knife shook in Magos' hand. This was beyond punishment, beyond humiliation. This was hatred. What kind of father would hate his own children so? What father could do this? I won't, said Mago, the clanging of his knife hitting the deck, reverberating across the triumphal hall. No more. You refuse me? Angron's eyes lost focus, a furnace-hot anger boiling tremors through his immense frame. Me? Froth burst from Angron's lip. A chilling Ursine growl rumbled from between his clenched iron teeth. Widowmaker's head crashed against the deck as Angron clawed at the table threadings of his scalp. His head started thrashing, throwing spittle in all directions. The World Eaters edged away from him. The Primarch's head almost blurred, swinging from side to side. They could hear all the cables of the butcher's nails tugging and squealing as they pulled against his scalp. One of the connections snapped taut, strained against Angron's skull, and in a burst of sparks severed loose. It was as though the air had been driven from the room. Without any of them realizing it, the entire Legion's hands strayed to their weapons. The mortal emotion of fear had been scoured from them long ago, but adrenaline sparked through their hearts as they watched, fired by the uncertainty of not knowing what was going to happen next. Gah! Angron's thrashing abruptly ceased, his face twisting with sharp spasms. His eyes were a pair of bloodshot stars bulging out of his head. Froth bubbled from his lips, and the sound of rending metal was heard as his grip on Widowmaker tightened until his fingers deformed the haft. Angron's jaw worked in bites and tremors, barking out sounds that faded back and forth between furious noise and a shrill, litting tongue that sent shivers across his sons. They recognized that language, though none of them had ever spoken it. Angron wasn't on the Conqueror anymore. He was back on Nuceria, in the pits. Bato, captain of the Devourers, Widowmakers, was the first to come forward to his father's side to try to placate him. Within a single second, Angron had torn both of his arms off from their sockets and sent them flying through the air, before he lifted the Terminator from his feet and broke his head open against the ground. One of his arms crashed at Magos' feet, the fingers twitching around the chain glaive they still held. With a roar that shook the deck, Angron leapt into the assembled World Eaters. Half a dozen legionaries died just breaking his fall, while swaths of others were felled by the blistering sweeps of Widowmaker's churning teeth. Blood flowed across the deck plating, emptying from sons who could not come to grips with what was happening, or how to even respond. Some of them ran at Angron, attempting to wrestle him to the ground and pin him down with sheer weight of numbers. The Primarch hurled them back with a howl, burying Widowmaker into any within his reach. "Get clear," shouted Mago, looking to his sergeants as each of them fought to keep control of their squads in the midst of the pandemonium. "Move back and get away from him." Angron seized the warrior by the legs and swung him like a flail. He smashed the Space Marines into the ground and stamped his skull to splinters. And that is where I will end this reading for today. So as you can see here, Angron is just rage incarnate. There is no sating him, there's no stopping him. This guy is a literal roided out monster. He has no remorse and he's just looking where the next head will roll. Again guys, I greatly recommend you guys read Angron, Slave of Nuceria. It is a really, really good read. And if you guys want our opinion on it, I will go ahead and link the videos so you guys can check that out on our other channel where we have more Primarch novel discussions such as Magnus and the Lorgar novels. But for now, that's all I got for today, guys. So again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, subscribing, sharing, commenting, all that jazz. But one thing that I do want to hear from you guys is, what do you think of Angron Transfigured? Let me know your thoughts down below. And with that being said, this has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you then. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation. I knew I never had that much to lose.